Hello, fellow gamers. I really wanted to do this intro standing up, but okay, we're going down here. Hello, fellow gamers. What? You don't believe I'm a fellow gamer? My Pikachu shirt isn't convincing you that I'm a fellow gamer? Well, what if I told you I also had? That's right. I ran over my foot while doing this. Look at this, guys. I got a new chair. The purpose of this video isn't to say that I got a new chair, but I'm officially a gamer now because I got this chair, right? Oh, what's that? You're still not convinced? Hold on. Yes, yeah, there's a noob on B. Look, guys, I have a matching headset for my chair as well, and I also think I just broke my Xbox controller. I'm fine though. Does that not convince you that I am a gamer? Well, it should. Now, the purpose of today's video is, oh no, I messed it up. The purpose of today's video, by the way, is not to confirm and or deny my gamer cred. That's already very well documented and is out there. What we're doing today instead is we're gonna be ranking Pokemon, specifically starter Pokemon, not all Pokemon, because that would be a long video, and I only have to hit the 10-minute mark to be fine, so let's, oh wait, I don't have enough subs to monetize, so it actually doesn't matter at all. My reasoning, my idea behind this, you guys may remember a couple months ago, back in like February, Pokemon Company, Game Freak, whoever, dropped the trailer for Pokemon Sword and Shield. And after that point, a lot of PokeTubers, a lot of big YouTubers and small YouTubers started doing a ranking my favorite starters throughout the generations, where they'd go one generation at a time and say their first, second, and third favorite starter, and then or blah blah blah. And I was gonna do, literally just go to YouTube, type it in, you'll find a million of them. I was gonna do that style video, but I got really lazy and didn't do it ever. And I was like, I could still do it now. I'm like 2 months too late to the party, but I could still do it now. But thankfully, by the power of memes, another trend has been arising on YouTube, and everybody's making these tier lists now. You've probably seen all sorts of stuff. First one I saw was iDubbbz. iDubbbz doing his fast food tier ranking list, and now everybody's going nuts with them and ranking everything. So I thought, what if I combine those two archetypes into one video? Certainly nobody's done this yet, right? Pokemon starter tier list. Well, that's fine, you know, Thomas Edison wasn't the first one to invent the light bulb, so we're still gonna do this anyway. Am I the first one at the party? No. Am I gonna be the best one at the party? No, but I will be at the party nonetheless. I'm going to rank, as you can see, oh, I cut my little thing off. Yeah, I'm gonna rank the starters among every generation, including the new one, even though we don't really know that much about the starters, like even what they evolve into, so I'll be giving a little bit of guessing there, but I'm very familiar with Pokemon, as I said, clearly a gamer, and we're gonna go through each of the generations one at a time, which will basically tell you rather than doing the video of like, here's my favorite Gen 1 starter, here's my favorite Gen 2 starter, here's 3, blah, blah, blah. This will basically tell you the exact same thing, because I'll be going a generation at a time. Unless we have a tie of some sorts, then it may be awkward. I have no idea. Anyway, as you can see, we have a tier ranking system from S to F. S is apparently even better than A, even though the alphabet teaches us differently, but that's fine. Let's get into Generation 1, and let's start with who I would consider to be probably my favorite Gen 1 starter. And I don't think there may be some opinions, by the way. These are just my opinions, so don't flame me in the comments. This one is a very basic boy opinion, though. And that is that Charmander is the best Generation 1 starter. That's right, better than Squirtle. Don't text me, I'm recording a video. Better than Squirtle, better than Bulbasaur. But the question is, where in these number letters does it rank? Charizard's a fan favorite. I know there's this movement to be like, Charizard's the most overrated Pokemon of all. He's not. He's a freaking fearsome fire-breathing dragon, even though he's not dragon type, but he's still a fantastic Pokemon nonetheless, and therefore Charmander is an S tier Pokemon. Now, my second favorite Pokemon from Gen 1 is also probably not that crazy in opinion, and it's Squirtle. Squirtle's wonderful. Squirtle is dang close to Charmander in terms of my favorites. Fire and water types, you'll notice over the course of this, as we go through the generations, are typically my favorite. Not a whole lot of love for the grass type. There's nothing wrong with the grass type Pokemon, they're just not my forte. Squirtle is a very close second for me. I absolutely love Mega Squirtle, and for that I'm gonna probably place him at an A tier. I haven't done this yet, I'm just doing this off the cuff. You'll probably notice I tend to like a lot of the starter Pokemon. I think they do in general a pretty good job with them. I think you'll notice a lot of them ranking more towards the top. I would be surprised to see any D's, E's, and F's, but there are going to be a couple that we definitely need to talk about. Now let's get to Bulbasaur. Here's the thing. The Kanto region starters are fantastic. They set the bar really high right off the bat. I would probably still give Bulbasaur a B ranking in terms of, all starters. It's not a bad Pokemon. It's not the most memorable perhaps, but I do like the Bulbasaur to Venusaur line. In general, it's just hard when you compare it to Charmander and Squirtle. I know there's some Bulbasaur fanboys out there. I don't dislike Bulbasaur. I'm gonna leave him at a B for now. All right, so let's move on to Generation 2, which is not my favorite generation, probably. It's definitely up there. Top 3 for certain. It's without a doubt my favorite region. I absolutely love the Johto region, everything about it. And I will go ahead and give a disclaimer that my favorite starter in this region is also my favorite starter in any game ever. Of all of the starters you see here, this one starter, if I could only have one in any generation, it would be this one, and it's Totodile. Totodile is the S-est of S-tier starters. Don't at me. Don't say anything about it. I have loved Totodile, actually not for forever, which is hilarious. When I first played through Gold, Silver, and Crystal, my go-to starter, who is my second favorite, was actually Cyndaquil. I loved the fire type back in the day, hence why Charmander was my first starter choice ever. Cyndaquil was my first starter choice when I played through Gold, Silver, and Crystal, and he was great. Had a really high special attack stat. The fire fed off of that, which was fantastic, and unfortunately Water was special type, and Totodile / Feraligatr didn't have a great special attack, more physical attacker, but didn't really have that many moves to take advantage of it. But once that physical special split in 4th gen was implemented, Totodile absolutely ran away with it for me. Heart Gold and Soul Silver are my favorite games of any Pokemon game I've ever played. And Totodile will always be my starter, starting in 4th gen with Heart Gold and Soul Silver. That does mean, though, that my second choice in 2nd gen is Cyndaquil. Again, you'll see a trend here with a lot of fire and water types. I would probably put Cyndaquil at a B tier. Not quite the level, definitely not S tier, and pretty close to an A tier. Again, it was my first starter in 2nd gen, but looking back, I just don't have that same affinity for it that I did back in the day. Now, one Pokemon, and the last Pokemon in 2nd generation, that really never had any affinity for me until recently was Chikorita. You asked me back in the day, Chikorita would be F tier for me, because I didn't know a whole lot about Pokemon. I didn't value defensive, setting up screens and defensive tanks and things like that. Now, as you get a little bit older, you start to appreciate those kind of things, and Chikorita is not an F-tier Pokemon. It's cute as a button, its line is awesome looking. Just based on aesthetics, I think its line is beautiful. And for that alone, I'm gonna give it a C tier. It's not quite as cool as Bulbasaur. I do like Bulbasaur's line a little bit better, so based on this ranking I've already given, I can't rank it equally to Bulbasaur, but it's actually not that far behind Cyndaquil for me. All of the 2nd gen starters are really good in my mind. Speaking of all the starters being really good, let's move on to 3rd gen, where, once again, I would say I like all of these starters quite a bit. This is probably actually, like, these starters, I have it's one of the toughest decisions for me. I like them all almost equally. Now, am I gonna put them all in the same category here? I'm not 100% sure, but it's really tough for me to pick my favorite of the 2nd gen starters. Sapphire was the first 3rd gen game I ever played, and my first starter I chose in Sapphire was Torchic. I absolutely loved Blaziken, and I was a stupid kid at this time, so I didn't really know how to team build. So I think the team that I took on the Elite Four with was a level 70 Blaziken and a level 40 Tentacruel. And Tentacruel basically was just there to know Surf, Dive, Waterfall, etc. And I think I had a Pelipper that knew Fly as well, if I remember correctly. But basically, Blaziken wiped the entire Elite Four for me. And for that reason alone, I think Torchic is probably still my favorite to this day. I also really like the transformation from adorable little creature here to awkward middle evolution to power. Where would I rank Torchic? I think Torchic and Blaziken, especially with Mega Blaziken added, is an A tier Pokemon. I'm gonna go ahead and put Torchic in the A tier. And as I said, all of the Pokemon in this generation are very close for me. My second favorite would probably have to be Mudkip, just because Mudkip is so adorable. I actually don't like Swampert that much. I love the typing, obviously, Water Ground is great, but I think he looks a little awkward, and I'm not a huge fan of him. I would still give Mudkip, though, just for Mudkip's cuteness alone. I'm gonna put Mudkip right up next to Torchic in the A tier as well. Again, we got a lot of nostalgia here, so of course things are getting ranked high. We'll get into these lower ones eventually, I promise you. That leaves Trico. I'm sorry, the grass type again, this will change, I promise. We have a couple generations where that changes. This leaves Trico, and I'd probably have to leave Trico at a B tier. Again, very close to an A tier. I almost love them all three equally, but sometimes just a little bit lower for me. Mega Sceptile I think looks a little awkward, but the dragon typing is really cool, but he's just a little bit lower for me there. Now let's go into 4th gen, which I will unashamedly say is my favorite generation, and is also my favorite 3 starters of any generation. So this is going to be extremely tough for me. This is another one of those generations where I could literally pick any one of these starters and be very, very happy with it. But I think my favorite is Piplup. I know, maybe not the most popular choice. Is it quite good enough to be S tier though? I think it is. I think Empoleon, the Water Steel type, is probably good enough in my mind to be an S tier Pokemon. Turtwig is right behind it. It's so close. It is so close between S tier and A tier. Do I think Turtwig is quite good enough to be an S tier Pokemon? No, I'm gonna leave Turtwig at an A tier. I had a really good time using Turtwig in my playthrough. And look, it's a grass type that made it second on the list, which of course leaves Chimchar as our final Pokemon of this generation. I love it. If you put this in a universe where no other generations existed, I think that Chimchar / Monferno / Infernape would be an A tier Pokemon. My only gripe is that they use the firefighting type again, which I know everybody complains about, and maybe I shouldn't be so upset about it, but it is upsetting to not get a new dual typing. So I would probably have to leave Chimchar at a B tier just for that in general, for repeating the firefight. And that's nothing Chimchar did. It's not Chimchar's fault, it's Game Freak's fault, I'm sorry. But for that reason alone, I'd probably have to leave Chimchar at B. Okay, it's been all sunshine and rainbows thus far, minus Chikorita, but we're about to get into the doldrums, because 5th gen, while one of my favorite generations, I think probably has the worst starters in any generation I've ever played. In fact, 5th generation is probably the only game where I regularly, when I go back and play through it, abandon my starter Pokemon in place of anything else. Now, part of that is just because there are so many awesome 5th gen Pokemon that it's very easy to build a team outside of needing a starter Pokemon. But part of that also is that the 5th gen starters don't really interest me that much. If I had to pick a favorite, it's probably Oshawott. Oshawott is cute as a button. Duwat is really, really cool. I just don't really understand Samurott and why this cute little ice cream headed little otter turns into this massive narwhal creature on 4 legs. I do not get the evolution at all. And that alone knocks it down a couple pegs for me. I'd probably leave it at a C tier. Oshawott is a C tier Pokemon, and that's my favorite of this generation, so you can imagine where we're going from here. My second favorite, however, I'll give a little bit of love to the grass types again, is Snivy. I think Snivy is a first stage Pokemon, is really well done. The design is really good. I do not like Servine or Serperior. I think mostly I hate snakes, so part of it's a little bit of a personal bias, a little bit of Indiana Jones in me, I will say. And it also doesn't gain any secondary typing, which I think could have made it a little bit cooler. Grass Dragon or something like that to make Serperior a little bit more interesting, but pure grass really doesn't do much for me. So unfortunately, Snivy's my second favorite of the generation. I'd probably have to give it a D. Finally, we have Tepig, the third firefighting type in a row. And compared to Blaziken and Infernape, this thing is an F. When you compare the other 2 firefighting starters you're gonna give me and you give me Tepig, I'm sorry 5th gen, you need to step up your, well you can't now, you're already released, but you know, theoretically you would have stepped up your starter game. Let's move into 6th gen, which I admittedly didn't play when it first came out. This was an awkward time in my life where I took a little bit of a hiatus from Pokemon. I didn't come back until Sun and Moon came out, and then after I played Sun and Moon, I went back and played 6th gen for the first time on the channel, so I'm actually not that familiar with 6th gen starters, which maybe means I shouldn't even be doing this, but still. My favorite is probably Froakie. I know, that's a basic opinion as well. People also think Greninja is overrated just because he's cool in the anime. But Froakie, Frogadier, and Greninja are actually just pretty cool Pokemon in general. I'd probably give Froakie a B tier if I had to settle somewhere. I would think B is a pretty good place. Again, I just don't have a lot of affinity for these Pokemon because I never played through 6th generation that many. I think I've played through it maybe 3 times total in my entire life. So I didn't really get to use these guys too much and appreciate them. Froakie would probably be my favorite. My next favorite, this may be controversial, but is Fennekin. Just because, and again, this is another one of those situations, we have a Snivy situation here. We have a Snivy situation where I love the stage 1, or the basic form of this. I love Fennekin. But its evolutions, something went wrong along the way. It fell into some toxic waste, and I don't know what they were thinking with its evolutions. Brexen, I think you pronounce it, and Delphox are garbage fires. I hate them so much, which is such a shame because they took this beautiful, beautiful fox, which could have turned into something Ninetales-esque. It easily could have turned into something Ninetales-esque, and they ruined it. They just straight up ruined it, and it stinks. So I'm probably gonna have to give Fennekin the same treatment as I gave Snivy. I think it's a D. I think it's a D because if you can't do any more than be a good basic Pokemon, then unfortunately, Fire Psychic's a cool type, don't get me wrong. I just hate the design quite a bit, and so because of its evolutions, we're gonna have to sit at D. Which leaves Chespin. I don't mean to hate on grass types. I really don't mean to hate on grass types. And I think Chespin is fine. Once again, a case of the horrible evolutions. I really dislike Quilladin, probably even more than I dislike Chestnut. Chestnut's got some cool things going on for it, but this cute little porcupine guy just turns into these big, fat, monstrous creatures, which I don't like. And so I'm gonna leave Chespin as our first E. He's not Tepig level. Nothing is Tepig level. Well, maybe one other thing is Tepig level, but we'll get to that in just a second. But that rounds out Gen 6 for me. Again, not my favorite starters. I have to admit that nostalgia fuels a lot of these, as you'll probably notice, and maybe that makes me not a great source, but still. Moving on to Generation 7, Sun and Moon, when I jump back into Pokemon. With Pokemon Sun and Moon, choosing my starter in this generation was ridiculously easy. As soon as I saw all 3 of them, I didn't even need to see the evolutions. Rowlet was the cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Rowlet was perfect when I saw him. And then I met Decidueye, who gains the Ghost typing. Rowlet is an S-tier Pokemon. Without a doubt in my mind, I will use Rowlet in every playthrough, every single time. I don't care what you say, who you are, where you're from, don't care what you did, as long as you love me. NSYNC/Backstreet Boys said it best. I don't know which one. I love Rowlet. Everything about it, from its little bow tie to its angsty middle evolution to its cool Robin Hood final evolution. Everything about this Pokemon is great. Decidueye should have been in Smash and not Incineroar. Don't add me. But that's how I feel about it. But speaking of Incineroar, I will give the nod to my second favorite Gen 7 starter, to Litten. I'm not a big cat guy, but the Fire Dark type is really cool. Litten and Torracat are great. Again, I don't like that. I hate the wrestling theme they went with for Incineroar, so Incineroar kind of ruins it for me, and therefore I'm gonna have to put Litten at a C. And rounding out is this. Maybe if he didn't have this nose, it may just be the nose. And I know I got, you know, I'm not one to talk, but I can't do it, Popplio. I'm sorry. Popplio is an E. Poplio's entire line, I get what they were trying to go for with the Siren Seal thing. They could have made it adorable. They could have made an adorable Seal Pokemon, and Popplio is so close. It looks like one of those, it's like they had all of the right elements, but they just messed it up in execution, which is really sad. I'd probably have to leave Popplio at an E tier. No love for Popplio, unfortunately. Also just not a big fan of the fairy type, so that didn't really do anything for me either. Which brings us to Generation 8, Pokemon Sword and Shield, which we know nothing about, except for the starters in the region it takes place, which isn't a whole lot of information. They've actually been doing a pretty good job of keeping things hush-hush, which I'm happy about because I feel like in Sun and Moon they released way too much information out there, and I basically knew the games front to back before I played them. So I like that we're getting a little bit of intrigue going into Pokemon Sword and Shield. I talked about this on one of my streams, twitch.tv/justjoshin if you want to tune in. My favorite Gen 8 starter, and again, these could change. These are tentative. I'm just imagining what they're going to be, what they're going to evolve into, etc. is Sobble. It's tough to place this right now because I don't know, what its evolution's gonna look like. As you see in the case of Snivy or Fennekin, if you would have shown me just Fennekin would have been an A-tier Pokemon, and then I see its evolution and it ruins it a little bit. So I don't want to go too crazy overboard with these Pokemon that we know very little about. I think Sobble is an A-tier Pokemon and will probably rest at A-tier. Again, it depends what they do with its line. It's a chameleon, which was my favorite Pokemon as a kid, so I'm a little bit biased towards this thing already. It's a water type and it vanishes. My best guess is that this thing is going to turn into a water ghost type, which, considering Jellicent and Frillish are the only two we have right now and they are ugly, I would be very happy if we got a majestic ghost water dragon of some sort. Lizard, I don't care. I think we could get something really cool out of Sobble. Again, that's kind of me crossing my fingers and hoping for the best. But it could be a Rowlet situation where I loved Rowlet already and it was an A tier, and then they slapped on that ghost type and he's gonna bump up to S tier. Sobble is probably gonna stay though in the range of S to B. I couldn't, unless they ruin him royally, I can't see him falling lower than C tier. My second favorite starter, if I had to pick another one, was Grookey. Again, Grookey is a toss-up. I'm gonna leave Grookey at C for now. Grookey has a lot of room to grow in either way. A monkey Pokemon is cool. We already have a grass monkey in Pansage, which is a little bit of a shame, but you can still do some really cool stuff with Grookey. You can turn it into some really cool gorilla looking thing, similar to, like, I know it's a bear, but like I'm thinking of Pancham and Pangoro. That evolution is really cool, and this cute little monkey could turn into this big, fearsome silverback gorilla or something like that, and that would probably bump Grookey up a couple stages for me. But right now, at a decent baseline, I'm hoping for grass rock type, just because they showed him banging on a rock in the trailer, and I'm hoping maybe that's, I mean, they're probably just trying to show that he's musical, but it also could have been a hint that maybe he's rock grass type, and I think that would be a cool combo and definitely something they could do something interesting with when they evolve him. Fingers crossed. Which leaves Scorbunny. Excuse me. I really want to like this guy, but I can't. This man is F tier. Again, I really wanted to like Scorbunny when I saw it, especially since it was the first starter in that trailer. I thought they would start off with something good, but I saw a tweet that just, as soon as I read it, it was 100% true. This man is a Digimon. This man does not belong in the world of Pokemon. Again, maybe its evolutions will change my mind. I think there's some interesting type combinations we could get here. Fire Steel, Fire Electric, Fire Fairy was my guess, just because I think they always tend to take one Pokemon and go the super cute, take Popplio for example, and they try to go the super overly cute route, and I could see them doing something like that with Scorbunny. I just hope it's not another firefighting type, or you will forever be cemented at F tier. Again, considering he's at F tier, he has nowhere to go but up, so Scorbunny could technically impress me quite a bit if his evolutions do something exciting, but for now, unfortunately, gonna have to leave him in F tier. I know that's a little bit brutal for essentially judging a book by its cover, but I'm giving him the floor so that he can move up from there, and hopefully I'm impressed. Well, there's my tier ranking of all of the Pokemon starters through all of the generations. This video was probably longer than I wanted it. Yeah, much longer than I wanted it to be, but hopefully you guys enjoyed anyway. I tried to stay as brief as possible, but it's tough when you start talking about some of these creatures and your nostalgic feelings get all brought up. And of course I'm a gamer, so I can, talk about these things for hours on end with absolutely no issue. I ramble a little bit as well, which is unfortunate. So it ended up being a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but that's okay. If you guys did enjoy this video though, please consider showing some support down below in the form of liking, commenting, subscribing if you haven't already, sharing with your grandmother if she likes Pokemon, or even if she doesn't like Pokemon. I'm sure she'd enjoy it. I have pinchable cheeks, I've been told. Chubby cheeks, they're definitely pinchable, and grandmas love them. So if you want to share with your grandma as well, or anybody really, anyone you think might also enjoy this video. But I hope to see you guys in future videos. I'm definitely hyped for I'm definitely hyped for 8th generation, no matter what it brings. Hopefully we'll get another trailer soon, which tells us a little bit more about these starters, which can maybe shift my ratings. I probably won't do another video even if they do shift my ratings, but You can follow me on Twitter, where I'm sure I will spout all sorts of nonsense about Pokemon in the coming months as we learn more about Pokemon Sword and Shield. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.